Hi, good evening, everyone. And on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Roseville area, I would like to welcome you to the Minnesota House of Representatives District 40B Candidate Forum. We thank the candidates and the audience for attending tonight at Roseville City Hall, including those watching the live stream by 9 North on cable channel 15 or 859 HD and on 9north.org, where you can also find the recording after tonight. That recording will be available for viewing by the public between now and the election. My name is Rachel Geiser. I will be the moderator for tonight. I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Roseville area, but I am not a resident of House District 40B, and so do not have the privilege of voting for either of these candidates. The League of Women Voters encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Our membership is open to any person who is 16 years of age or older. The League is proud to be nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties at any level of government. Sponsorship of this forum is a public service, providing you with an opportunity to hear the candidates discuss important issues face-to-face and not an endorsement by the League. All opinions presented are those of the candidates, not of the League of Women Voters. The candidates have all agreed to the forum rules, which were included in their invitation to participate, and I know that they'll give us a respectful and informative evening. Tonight we have with us the two candidates running for Minnesota House of Representatives District 40B. They are seated here alphabetically by last name. Candidate Curtis Johnson and candidate Paul Wikstrom. Questions tonight were emailed to the League ahead of time from voters or come from the audience tonight. Because there are many topics of interest to the community, similar or related questions may be merged together to help us cover more topics. If your area of interest is not discussed, I encourage you to reach out to the candidates to better understand their stance. The candidates will have up to 2 minutes for opening and closing statements and 2 minutes for responses to questions, unless I indicate otherwise during the forum. The timer here will hold up a 30-second warning sign and then a stop sign when the allotted time is up. Please finish your sentence and stop. Candidates drew numbers to determine the order they will speak tonight, which will then be switched with each question. Closing statements will be in the opposite order of opening statements. Okay, well, that's enough for me. Let's hear opening statements from the candidates. We will begin with candidate Johnson.
Good evening. My name is Curtis Johnson. I'm the DFL endorsed candidate for Minnesota House 40B. I first would like to thank the League of Women Voters Roseville and the city of Roseville for hosting us tonight. This is a very important debate, and I'm not from here originally. But I spent a lot of time here. I met my wife here. My kids were born here, and they are products of the Roseville area school system, and I've never doubted that decision. And I've also had the wonderful opportunity to give back to community. To give back to community. That's very important to me. Whether it was starting off as a PTA dad. I was president of my local PTA, then state PTA, and then for the last 7 years, I've had the awesome responsibility of being on the Roseville area school board, and the last 2 years being as its chair. Community is something that's really important to me, and service is not something that's new to me. It's something that's just baked in my DNA, and I'm just really proud to have this opportunity to speak in front of you tonight.
Thank you. Candidate Wikstrom.
Hi, I'm Paul Wikstrom. I'm running for House District 40B as a Republican endorsed candidate. Thank you for being here. I've lived in the district for 28 years with my lovely little wife, Liz, and we've raised 3 children in the school district, Mounds View School District. Minnesota is at a crossroads this year. There are serious issues in our state which we must address. Priority number 1, we need to make Minnesota an affordable place to live. In 2023, the legislature increased the budget by 40%. This included an $18 billion surplus and an additional $10 billion in taxes. That surplus could have returned $3,000 per individual or $12,000 for a family of 4. This would have helped buy gas and groceries. The state of Minnesota has mismanaged spending and ignored fraud. This includes over $650 million of feeding our future fraud and pandemic overcompensation. Priority number 2, we need to reduce crime rates and improve community safety. Minnesotans do not feel safe. Minnesota's crime rate is now crossing above the national crime average. And the city of Roseville has the third highest crime rate behind nearby cities that are behind Minneapolis and St. Paul. Across Minnesota, 1/4 of law enforcement officers will retire soon. The ranks are thinning because of the failed adversarial political leadership that has been hostile to law enforcement. Priority number 3, we need to fix our educational system. Since 2019, under Governor Walz, reading proficiency is down 16%, math proficiency is down 17%, science proficiency is down 23%. Mississippi's fourth graders are now reading at a higher level of proficiency than Minnesota's, and we're spending $6,000 a year more per pupil. Since 2000, school district administrative costs have grown by 132%, while teaching salaries have only risen by about 5%. Education is the largest outlay, and where's the money going? It's not making it to the classroom. We don't have a funding problem. We have an allocation problem. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the opening statements. We now move to the question and answer portion of the forum. Each candidate has up to 2 minutes to respond to each question, unless I note otherwise. I will announce who is first, and the other candidate will answer after. Please stop me if I skip anyone. Candidate Wikstrom, this question will start with you. Constituents in this district are concerned about the academic achievement of K-12 students in the schools, both locally and across the state. What legislative measures, if any, would you support to address the educational needs of children in Minnesota?
Well, the legislature needs to make sure that the standards are being met and that the curriculum that are developed are meeting those standards. I totally agree. The educational proficiencies are really failing, as I called out in my opening statement. We need to make sure that we're really monitoring and making sure those proficiencies are audited on a regular basis, and that the school districts themselves are fully funded, and with full funding that is pushed down to the school district level for decision making. We need to make sure that the school districts have more decisions at the local level instead of the state legislature deciding that. I guess that concludes my response to that.
Great. Thank you. Candidate Johnson, same question.
Okay, it may surprise you that I agree with part of that. I believe that schools need to be fully funded. Okay, and we need to we need to put money into programs that work. Okay, proven programs like the AVID program. Okay, the AVID program is advancement by individual determination that I have fought for at the Roseville area schools. In fact, both Roseville area high school and Roseville area middle school are national schools of distinction for that. And so people from across the country come to learn how we do it. Okay, the state legislature brought us the READ Act, okay, to address to address the problem that was discussed earlier when it comes to reading. Okay, the science of reading is, unfortunately, it's one of those things, it costs money. And one of the things that I would do is to help make sure that we are funneling more money into the READ Act. That was something that actually I voted for as part of the Roseville Area School Board before it came to the state. Our teachers came to us and said, "Hey, we've got a better way of doing this. It's going to cost some money." And my response was, "It's really simple. If it's going to help kids, then let's just do it." Okay, and I did it. I voted for it, and be honest, the state followed our lead, and we're going to see those benefits coming. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So we'll reverse the order, and this next question then will be for candidate Johnson. Increases in crime are a concern for those in the district. What ideas do you have to address any increase in crime in the area and ensure the safety of the community?
Crime is always going to be a concern. You have a giant mall. Okay. One of the things that I've continually done is talked with people who actually do this for a living. I've talked to Chief Schneider on a number of cases, including actually just yesterday, to talk about possible solutions. One of the things that we need to do is to kind of like the same thing we're experiencing with teachers. We need to make sure that we are making a nice pipeline to have our best and brightest join or continue to join the police force. Okay, we have a great opportunity to help funding, create guardrails, again, and then let our individual police departments decide how they're going to implement things. This is now when it comes to there have been some increases in crime, but not to the extent that has been stated already. So I'll leave that there.
Great, thank you very much. Candidate Wikstrom.
Well, public safety is at the core of what government is supposed to be providing, security for the people, and that's been lacking in this state for a number of years. And for me, crime starts when addressing crime starts when the crimes are small. Let's call it the broken glass. And before criminals progress down a chain of increasing violence, that we stop it and address it early in that chain, such that we're making sure that criminals know there's a consequence. When it starts out to be a minor crime, there's a minor consequence. So the broken glass concept, I think, is very applicable to what we should be doing in this state, making sure that when we have juveniles who are getting into trouble in the schools, that they have a place to go so that they're not disrupting the rest of the environment, at the same time getting the help they need. We need to fully fund our law enforcement and make sure they have the backing of the political leadership. And we need to make sure we have, school, safety resource or school resource officers in the school that are there for safety and to also provide guidance. One of my biggest concerns with law enforcement is that a lot of them are getting really tired of being in the profession they're in because they don't have the leadership or the backing, and they're getting tired and really sick of, what's happening in their community. I've talked to a resident in West Roseville about a month ago who said he's got a family loaded with retired or active police officers, and they're really tired of what's happening. They can't wait to retire. With 25% of police officers set to retire in the next couple of years, we need to really make sure that we're backing our law enforcement and that they're fully funded and available to us so that we can improve community safety.
Wonderful, thank you very much. All right, Candidate Wikstrom, we're going to start with you on this next question. What should be Minnesota's spending priorities in the next 2 years?
Well, spending priorities should be to, let's stop the runaway spending that's happening. A 40% increase in the doors that I've knocked on. I haven't talked to anybody in the household that said, "Hey, I've increased my budget 40% this last year over a 2-year cycle." The spending is out of control, so we need to get our arms around that, make sure that we're spending at a rate that's affordable for Minnesotans. So that's the number one priority. And then along with that, the taxes that are, very high in the state. We're the 6th highest income tax state in the nation. We got the highest corporate tax. And we also have, we're one of 13 states with an estate tax. So we're being taxed very heavily, and it's not friendly to small business. And those are the entities that are creating the jobs. So my priority would be to let's look at the spending and then and taxes related to that. Number 2, address the fraud. There's a lot of money that's going out through either fraud or mismanaged money that's not being properly oversought by the legislature, as identified by the Office of Legislative Auditor.
Great, thank you. Candidate Johnson.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, absolutely. What should be Minnesota's spending priorities in the next 2 years?
In no particular order, I believe the spending priorities should be education, okay, because this is the thing in which this is the secret sauce. There has been discussion about taxes, and what it comes down to it is that when it comes to how we're taxed, we're the most progressively taxed state in the country. Okay, we have Fortune 500. We have more Fortune 500 companies per capita, okay, than any state. Okay, that's not because of taxes. that's because of a great tax base. Okay, we have educated people, and the environment would be another one. We have to do better. Okay, climate change is real. We have to deal with it. And the last one's going to be housing. Okay, we have to make sure we have adequate housing because the middle class is the driver of everything. Okay, and we need to make sure that our seniors are able to age in place, and our first-time home buyers are able to actually, purchase homes, which will allow them to actually to take those jobs, whether it be at big corporations or small companies. So I'll leave it there.
Great, thank you. Candidate Wikstrom.
Oh, repeat the question, please.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't
he
asked
already
that.
answered that
I knew I
question.
was going to mess up one of these times,
I
so
was a
thank
little
you for
confused. That's all
questioning.
right.
Let's get a new question then, shall we?
Yeah.
Instead of having you answer it again. And this time, sorry, Curtis Johnson, we're going to have you answer, Candidate Johnson. Minnesota statute guarantees Minnesota's right to make decisions for Minnesotans, right to make decisions regarding their reproductive health care free from interference by the state. Would you support legislative measures to continue or modify the statute, particularly when it comes to access to contraception, in vitro fertilization, and medical abortion?
Can you read that one more time?
Yes, absolutely. Minnesota statute guarantees Minnesotans' right to make decisions regarding their reproductive health care free from interference by the state. Would you support legislative measures to continue or modify the statute, particularly when it comes to access to contraception, in vitro fertilization, and medical abortion?
Okay, thank you. Just making sure I got that one straight. Okay, so I'm the president of ERA Minnesota, and that organization has been trying to get the federal ERA passed in addition to a state ERA passed. So in short, yes. I believe that these rights should be enshrined in our Constitution, and the rights of a woman to be able to have reproductive care, with their doctor should be the only people who are making those decisions. Okay, should be the person and the doctor. Period. I could go on, but I mean that's it. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Candidate Wikstrom.
When it comes to those rights, it's already been determined, especially with abortion rights. Minnesota Constitution basically says no member of the state shall be disenfranchised or deprived of any of the rights or privileges secured to any citizen thereof, unless by the law of the land or judgment of his peers. Basically, when it comes to abortion rights, in '95, the state Supreme Court decided in Doe versus Gomez that abortion is a right all the way through the third trimester. So that's been decided, and legislative action on that front is not going to make any difference as far as what rights are accorded or not accorded in Minnesota.
Thank you. All right. Next question. Candidate Wikstrom, this one will start with you. Many candidates talk about and campaign on working across the aisle. Caucus positions, however, often make this very difficult. Do you think you could go against caucus leadership on an issue if it would mean working on an issue that would benefit the district?
Well, first and foremost, we have to pay attention to the needs of the district. And I think that's one of the issues that we've had in this district is that the representatives have not been paying attention to the needs of the district. And I get that at doors. I hear that from people at doors that they try to get a hold of City Hall or their representative and they're not getting a response. So first and foremost, we need to listen to and understand the needs of the district before we really take serious action on any front. As far as working across the aisle, I think that's one of my strengths. I've got over 35 years as an engineer and engineering manager, and these last 20 plus years of leading high performance teams and working in situations that can sometimes be very intense or where there's disagreement. That's one of the hallmarks that I've developed in my career is the ability to, one, actively listen, and two, collaborate with people that have different opinions than my own. And I feel very confident that I could go into the legislature and work with people who have different points of view. So I think that actually speaks to one of my strengths is the ability to actively listen and collaborate with people who come from different perspectives.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson.
What I will say is that working across the aisle is necessary and is expected. Representative Jamie Becker-Finn, who recently retired from this position, in her first year, got her first bill passed by working across the aisle. She was not only a freshman, okay, she was in the minority. Okay, two big strikes. There's a 1% chance that you're going to get anything across. Okay, she did that. She got her bill across, and then because it was a good idea and was the best thing for the district. This is the leadership that I have learned to appreciate and learn from. On the Roseville Area School Board, we're not all Democrats, okay? Surprise, it's true, okay? And but for anything, we work together to find the best solutions. When it comes to me personally, I work very hard to be part of the community, okay? There is no one has ever said, I can't find a way to reach Curtis, okay? Because my information out there, my phone is out there, my email's out there, and I will respond to anything and anytime with anyone. I've worked with people at the legislature on both sides of the aisle to get things passed. Okay, I've worked with Republicans and Democrats to talk about the Equal Rights Amendment, and to work on a number of things for schools. So this is not something that you have to guess about. It's something I've already done, something I've been doing, and something I will continue to do as your next representative.
Thank you. All right, next question, and we'll start with you, Candidate Johnson. Affordable housing, particularly for seniors who want to stay in their homes, is a concern of those in the district. What is the state's role, if any, in increasing affordable housing, and what specific action would you support if elected?
Great question. I would start with ideas that, again, we have a number of things that are already working for us, whether we're talking about tiny houses, which we already have in Roseville and in Shoreview, whether we're talking about ideas to help loans, to help residents update their homes. You know, when it comes to Roseville and Shoreview, are the people who live in them, they've lived in there a long time. And it can be hard to modify them to, meet the houses, of today. And so, let's help them do that.
Great, thank you. Candidate Wikstrom.
My number one priority is making Minnesota more affordable for people across the board, including seniors. So reducing taxes would be a high priority, and that helps everybody, in particular with seniors, to eliminate the Social Security tax on seniors. That's really hitting them hard. I had one resident tell me that, he went to Cub to get $200 worth of groceries, and his pharmaceuticals were $800. And this after he offered me some water and the door knocker I was with, and he came out and said, hey, I got a question for you. What about Social Security tax for seniors? That's really hitting him hard when he's already paying $200 for groceries and $800 for pharmaceuticals. So, the taxes that we're imposing on people of all income levels is making Minnesota a lot less affordable. I personally am very grateful that the state of Minnesota cannot print money, because if they could, we would have a serious problem with inflation. This is a state that is spending way beyond its means, and that cost is going down to all the demographics and age levels within the state. So number one, reduce the spending, make Minnesota more affordable, and then with that, reduction in taxes.
Thank you. All right, next question, and we will start with you, Candidate Wikstrom. What legislative measures would you support, if any, to improve Minnesota's mental health system?
This is a topic that's near and dear to me. 5 years ago, my mother passed away. She had mental illness all her life, and it was severe. I wished I would have known about just basic tools to deal with mental illness. And one of the things that I would support is helping family members deal with mental illness. In other words, an organization like NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, that's a great organization. Can the state help fund education and training for family members? Had I had that kind of training, it would have helped me a lot in dealing with a parent who had significant mental illness, particularly in being able to negotiate conflict and to avoid conflict with somebody who's mentally ill. And I think that affects a lot of situations. So put the families who are on the front lines, help them such that the person with mental illness does not become a greater a burden in terms of government aid. I think the families and the neighbors can be part of this front line and the second tier of support for people with mental illness. Now, those that can't be supported through those means, then I think it's up to the state, through welfare, social services to help, in the situations where it's really needed.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson.
I've had the good fortune to work with NAMI and been a board member on Northeast Youth and Family Services. And so I know very much the work, the great work that they're doing and the need for mental health care. And mental health care is health care. Okay. And so one of the things that we need to do is that we need to make health care affordable. One of the ways that we can do that is through Senator Marty's Minnesota Health Plan. We've had the opportunity to bring that out into committee in the last session. It did not happen. When I become your next representative, I will co-sponsor that bill, and we will hear it in committee, and we will make things better for the people in this district. Fixing our broken healthcare system is going to help our seniors. It's going to help our students. It's going to help everyone, and that's a good thing.
Thank you. All right. Candidate Johnson, we'll start with you for this next question. What do you see as the impact of climate change in Minnesota, and what specific legislative initiatives would you support to combat climate change?
I'm sorry, could you just repeat it one more time?
Absolutely. What do you see as the impact of climate change in Minnesota, and what specific legislative initiatives would you support to combat climate change?
Climate change is one of the greatest problems that are going to be facing this district, this state, this country as we move forward. One of the things that I would support is the increase and the development of green energy and green jobs. Okay, another thing that I would use is to actually invest in our infrastructure. Okay, because that is something that is, if we do not deal with this now, it's just going to get worse. We've already seen up north what happened when a dam broke. Okay, let's deal with these. Let's not admire the problem anymore. Okay, and instead, let's invest in infrastructure. Let's invest in green energy. Let's invest in green jobs. Okay, let's invest in infrastructure to help move people around. Right now, and there's not a single bus that will take you the length of Highway 96. Okay, well that's crazy. Okay, we should be able to do better, and we have to, or else we're going to pay the price.
Thank you. Candidate Wikstrom?
I think we've been very blessed in Minnesota with a state that has cared for its natural resources. I do have concerns about when we look at some energy sources that we're trying to be over-reliant on any given source of energy. We need to really be careful as we look at a source of energy and consider what it's like during its entire life cycle. In other words, from lust to dust. And that's good engineering to look at the total life cycle of anything that you're using is to look at, what material and what sources are going to be required to utilize this energy, to create this energy source and to use it. And then how will it be used and what kind of byproducts will it leave? And the sources of material that are used, what country will they come from? And then as the materials, as the energy source is being retired, what kind of waste will it leave behind? And that question should be applied to hydrocarbon, it should be applied to nuclear, it should be applied to solar panels, and to make sure that we're looking at each energy source comprehensively and to, ultimately be responsible stewards of our environment. And then when we, retire any given energy source, so make sure we're shepherding it out of our environment properly. Ultimately, we need a diversity of energy sources. We can't be overly reliant on any one.
Thank you. We're about halfway through, so I just wanted to throw a quick, different type of question in here real quick. This will be a 30-second response.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll just use the stop one here. And Candidate Wikstrom, we'll start with you. What do you believe is District 40B's greatest strength or asset?
It has been the education, I believe, and the environment that my family has, that I've been able to raise our family, which is also what brings me here. I'm very concerned about the state of our educational system, so I want to bring it back to when we had a really good educational system in our school districts. That's what I think should be the hallmark of this district.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson?
Repeat the question, please.
Yeah. What do you believe is District 40B's greatest strength or asset?
Greatest strength, two things. One of it is its people. I came here 20 plus years ago and have never regretted it. And the second one is the schools. And the schools in Roseville and Shoreview have been and are great schools.
Thank you. All right. Okay, Kenneth Johnson, we're going to start with you on this next one.
I'm so sorry. Is this going to be a 30-second one? Or
I'm sorry. We're going to move back to
Okay.
the regular format again. I apologize for not making that clear. The cost of healthcare is a challenge for many Minnesotans. How would you address healthcare affordability and access?
Okay. Like I mentioned before, we have the opportunity to bring forth Senator Marty's Minnesota Health Plan. This would allow health care for everyone. And I think that's just where we need to be. Healthcare should be a right, not a privilege. We need to be able to have transportation, to allow people to be able to get to different places. The Mayo Clinic has an interesting bus system where you can actually, it'll take you down to Mayo, for the day if you need to get something done. Well, we should be doing that, in some of our places up here. And so I think that, we need to treat healthcare as a right, and that is what I support.
Thank you. Candidate Wikstrom?
I would work to reduce the waste and the fraud and the healthcare spending. Democrats have raised the healthcare taxes by over $1 billion, and they've been pushing for a takeover of healthcare by the government, which by definition, governments are inefficient. There isn't an economic, moment built into any transaction that is governed by the government because there isn't a value exchange. So by nature, government is very inefficient. It concerns me greatly that government would want to push to take over, the DFL would want to push to take over healthcare. So, I'd work to make sure that Minnesotans have access to affordable health care that is, available in the market. And that competition is what ultimately, brings efficiency and value to health care.
Thank you. All right, Candidate Wikstrom, we'll start with you on this next one. Some states have enacted laws requiring books in school libraries to be reviewed or approved by the state and allowed individuals to file complaints to remove books based on personal objections. Would you support legislative measures allowing for similar laws in Minnesota?
I would support the books that are chosen for the libraries are aligned with the values of the community. In other words, having parents and teachers, media specialists involved in those decisions. But what concerns me greatly is 47% of third graders in the state are at state level reading proficiency. And for those 53% that are not at state level proficiency, books are banned for them. In other words, they're having a hard time reading books. So I think our number one focus should be to make sure that third graders can read. Up till third grade, they're learning to read, and after third grade, they're reading to learn. So it concerns me greatly that we have third graders who are not at state level proficiency per the Minnesota Department of Education. That's over half of them are not able to, read proficiently. So that's my number one priority, is to make sure that we have reading proficiency. That's essentially, I think, the driving concern.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson?
Can I repeat the question?
Yes. Some states have enacted laws requiring books in school libraries to be reviewed or approved by the state and allowed individuals to file complaints to remove books based on personal objections. Would you support legislative measures allowing for similar laws in Minnesota?
No. To go on more into that, teachers, parents, media specialists already review books. Okay, if there is a concern by a parent, there is a process both in Roseville and in Mounds View to be able to take a look at a book. If the book is deemed inappropriate, it is removed. There's absolutely no reason why the state should be spending any of its time and funding, policing books. So, in regards to reading, yeah, I believe that we should help our kids learn to read, and that's why we have things like the READ Act. That's why we have things like Avid. That's why we have things that like these, and I have championed all these things. And so, yes, I think that the state has responsibility to help our kids do better, and then leave it to the districts and the school systems to implement.
Thank you. Kenneth Johnson, we'll start with you in this next question. What kinds of policies, if any, will you pursue to promote social and racial justice in our community?
Okay. We're gonna start again with education. Things like the Avid program. So if you're not familiar with the Avid program is designed to help first generation college students or students who have first generation college students, to give them the tools to be able to go to college or participate in the career of their choice. Okay, which is just as important. We need to pass the ERA. Okay, because until everyone is equal, no one is equal. Okay, I am the current president of ERA Minnesota. I have been fighting for the rights of all people, and this is something that I will champion when I'm your next representative, and I think it's important. So,
Thank you. Candidate Wikstrom?
I support people caring for each other. I hesitate to have government step into a space where we're trying to teach people how to diversify or get along. I personally feel very accomplished with my track record of working with people across the globe of different cultures. And I think what we can do in government is to encourage people to listen and to learn from each other, and to really stick with the adage, united we stand, divided we fall. We need to really value other people and to make sure that we're listening and learning in a loving way. So I don't necessarily promote the idea or align with the idea that government has a role in aligning people's attributes, by the nature of their physical characteristics. I really think that's up to the family. It's up to the person to listen and learn and to love each other.
Thank you. Candidate Wikstrom, this next question will be for you. And I just lost it. I apologize. What areas of government, if any, would you like to reform? And how should these reforms be financed?
Really good question. I think education would be the number one area from my standpoint. We need to make sure that we're spending the money in the right ways. And what I mentioned it earlier, the administrative costs at the district level has gone up by 132% since the year 2000. I think we really need to examine what's happening in our state with our district administrative costs. And if I talk to teachers or spouses of teachers at doors, this is a common theme. They're getting overwhelmed with bureaucracy. And, we need to make sure that when we spend the money on education, that it's making it to the classroom with minimal bureaucracy for the classroom. So the Department of Education, I think, really needs an overhaul. It needs to be studied and potentially restructured such that it's delivering what it's supposed to deliver, high academic proficiency for students at all ages and all tracks. And I don't think students necessarily should all end up in college. We should be preparing students for the trades. We should be preparing students to go into the military. So, we should not be forcing an academic system that is trying to get every kid to go to college, because that doesn't work and it's not right. So we need to make sure that we've got an educational system that is actually delivering and, reaching those students. It concerns me greatly that Roseville has a college readiness of 33% according to U.S. News and World Report. Mounds View has a college readiness of 46%. There are many seriously deficient proficiencies just in our district and not just across the state that we need to really look hard at reforming what's happening in our education.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson?
Sorry, repeat the question.
Yep. What areas of government, if any, would you like to reform, and how should these reforms be financed?
The second one is the most interesting part of that question, to be honest. There are always going to be opportunities where we have duplication of efforts at the local and the state, county levels. Okay, and so I would start there. I would start there to look for different opportunities. But be honest, I don't buy into this concept of this massive waste of resources. Okay, when it comes to funding for schools, let's be honest, schools have been underfunded for the last 20 years. Okay, the state legislature made a great first step to help correct that in the last session. Okay, but there's a lot more work to do. I am all for making sure holding any city, county, federal, local unit accountable that receives funds. That makes sense, okay? But it's like, no, check for duplications, and that's really it.
Thank you. Excuse me. Candidate Johnson, this next question will start with you. We've received numerous questions on various aspects of laws controlling access to guns. What legislative measures would you support, if any, in regards to accessing guns?
The state legislature has made some great strides, especially in the last session, regarding that. The one thing that it did not get through was safe storage, and that would be something that I am not only in favor I am in favor of, but I would carry that bill in the House. So it's necessary. And the NRA says that this is how you should be storing your weapons. So this is not some crazy lefty thing. Okay, this is no one's trying to take your guns. Okay, this is something that is going to help our community and our kids and our seniors and everybody. And it is a common sense solution that I think that a majority of people in the district believe in.
Thank you. Candidate Wikstrom?
The question is around the protection of guns, securing of guns in the home. Is that correct? Is that the?
The question is, we've received numerous questions on various aspects of laws controlling access to guns. What legislative measures would you support, if any, in regards to accessing guns?
Basically, I'm a pro Second Amendment. I'm for the U.S. Constitution, all the rights in there, and also the Minnesota Constitution. The question of how secure should a gun be in the home also comes at the expense of how available is it for the right of self-defense. So any legislation that I would consider or look at would have to be a proper balance between both of those, those aspects. So I think it's a pretty broad question, but I would probably lean towards making sure that the right to self-defense is assured rather than securing guns where they're not available for self-defense.
Thank you. The next question will start with you, Candidate Wikstrom. In supporting the Minnesota economy, would you emphasize reforming tax policies, addressing income inequality, or some other factor?
I think my comments already have really reinforced, I think, the importance of is tax policy. The spending that's driving the tax policy, that's our number one issue in the state. It's affecting the affordability. And it's not just me saying this. I'm hearing this a lot. People are really struggling under the affordability or lack of in this state. I door knocked one door in Shoreview about a month ago, and the woman that answered the door told me that her daughter and son-in-law, combined income of $100,000, are struggling to make ends meet with $3,600 a month child care. So what we need to do is really step back, and instead of increasing the budget by 40%, which also drives taxes, we need to step back and say, okay, how can we make this state more affordable? That's our number one priority.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson?
Repeat the question one more time.
Yes. In supporting the Minnesota economy, would you emphasize reforming tax policies, addressing income inequality, or some other factor?
Yeah, essentially, yes. We need to address income inequality to begin with. Passing the ERA, having women be paid at the same rate as men. Okay, guess what? That brings more money in. I'm all for addressing taxes, as long as those taxes are fair to the middle class, which is the driver, okay, of our economy, as well as corporations. What's been talked about regarding 40% spending. Okay, when people got those rebate checks, that counts as spending. Okay, so please understand that if you don't put context around numbers, okay, you can misunderstand what they mean.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson, this next question is for you. What legislative action do you think is most important to move forward related to transportation?
It's one of my favorite things. Okay. When it comes to our district, okay, we don't have to recreate the wheel. We have some situations where it's very easy. And, as I mentioned before, there is not a bus that will take you the length of 96, Highway 96. There is no way right now, if you're trying to, get from Shoreview to downtown Minneapolis or downtown St. Paul through public transit, okay, you're talking about an hour and a half or more. Okay, so there literally is no incentive, okay, for people to take public transportation. The thing I'd be interested in is working with my council to make sure that we have more local transportation, real transportation to allow people to, go back back and forth using areas we already have. And yeah.
Thank you. Candidate Wikstrom?
I think we need to focus on not just public transportation, but also the personal, the ability to, the highway infrastructure. I've been pleased at some level with the level of improvements that have happened across the Twin Cities over the last 20 to 30 years, especially with the area around 694 and Rice Street. There have been some major improvements, but it really strikes me that in some of the, in the cities, these county highways are in poor condition. Rice Street's a good example. Coming out of the capital area, I've been disappointed over the years to see some of the streets and the conditions that they're in. I was talking to one resident, and he asked me what I thought of the street, the infrastructure. I thought it was fine. And he goes, "Well, what about out there?" And he pointed his own street where there's potholes, and he's in Southern Shoreview, and I had to agree with him. He's got a point. The streets themselves are falling into some level of decay. So, we need to support public transportation. We also need to make sure that our streets and our highways are keeping up with the demands of motor vehicle travel.
Thank you. We only have a little bit of time left, and I have gotten several requests to know a little bit more about you guys and your bios, and you've already shared, so I think we're going to do a minute response on this one, 1 minute each. So just a little bit of a different question here, just make sure we get this in on time.
Sure.
Could you share the role model that inspired you to want to serve in the legislature? Candidate Wikstrom.
The role model. This could be a long story. I started getting involved or interested in politics basically, and decided to run for the Mounds View School Board because of the lack of transparency at the local level. I was speaking, providing my input on various topics like the masking policy, for example, and they shut down public input at the school board meetings in Mounds View. 4 of 11 policies that were changed from 2019 to 2023, 4 of them were on the right of public input. So this transparency, if you want to call it a role model, that's what really fueled my fire to get into politics and to make sure that we're here to serve the people and that we're listening to the people. And that's really my motivation. It wasn't a role model per se. That's what's really brought me here.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson?
Yeah, that'd be an easy one. That would be Representative Jamie Becker-Finn. I worked on her campaign from the beginning. I have been incredibly impressed with her leadership and dedication to this district as people, and including working across the aisle. She demonstrated to me early that it is something that you can do, is something that you must do, and that the community is worth fighting for. So,
Thank you. All right, that concludes the Q&A portion of the forum. We now move to closing statements, again allowing for up to 2 minutes for each candidate. And we're going to go the opposite order that we went for opening statements. So, Candidate Wikstrom, we'll begin with you with your closing statement.
Our first priority, like I said earlier, is to make Minnesota more affordable. When elected, I will work to stop the runaway spending, reduce taxes, and bring transparency and common sense to the legislature. We need to improve our budgeting and spending through audits, proper planning, and transparent legislation. I will propose legislation to create a fraud crime stopper hotline, for example, and I will help you keep your money in your wallet. Number 2, priority is crime and community safety. I want to say a heartfelt thank you to the law enforcement community. The state of Minnesota and the political leadership have let you down. As your elected legislature, I will have your back. I will work to make sure that law enforcement and supporting resources are fully funded. To the residents of the district, as your representative, I will work tirelessly to bring attention to crime in our district and to lower the crime rate through needs analysis and effective legislative action. Criminals need to be held accountable, and victims need justice. Number 3, priority public education, which is currently the largest outlay in our public general fund budget of 36%. We need to make sure that school districts are provided with full and flexible budgets and to allow school districts to make their own decisions. We need to return important learning tools to the classroom like phonics and bring back reading specialists. We need to examine why the administrative costs are so high and the bureaucracy they impose. There is hope. We can fix this. When elected, my priorities will be to make Minnesota more affordable. I will help you keep your money in your wallet. I will stop the rising crime rates and make our communities safer. And I will bring academic proficiency back to public education. Together, we can fix this. I'm Paul Wikstrom, and I'm running for House District 40B, and wikstromforhouse.com if you want more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson.
I'd like to thank everybody for participating today. My three main priorities are going to be education, the environment, and housing. As a member of Northeast Youth and Family Services, I will be fighting for mental health care. As a president of ERA Minnesota, I will be fighting for the rights of women and reproductive health care, which is health care. As a member of AmeriCorps, I'm going to be fighting for housing. Okay. I've had the privilege of being on your Roseville area school board for the last 7 years. Through COVID, through good times and bad, we have a wonderful education system, both here in Roseville and in Shoreview. We have the opportunity to be leaders. In Roseville, we have solar panels on five of our schools. In Shoreview, Irondale, okay, we have they're putting in geothermal energy. Okay, and that is going to save tons of money. We are in a great situation right now where we have the opportunity to create green jobs. Make sure that we have jobs for whether we need to be able to prepare our kids both for college and or career. As your next representative, I will be fighting for all these things and more. If you want to learn more about me, please go to my website at curtisforminnesota.com. That's Curtis, FORMN.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you all. That ends our forum for tonight, and it has been a privilege to give the public a platform to better understand the candidates running for office in the district. There are many other topics for which we did not have time, so check out the campaign literature, candidate websites, vote411.org, or reach out to the candidates themselves if you would like more information. Again, I would like to remind you that the views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters of Roseville area. Sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement of any candidate by the League. You can find more information about voting on mnvotes.org and lwvmn.org. Links to area candidate forums and additional voter information can be found on our website, lwvrosevillearea.org. In addition to holding candidate forums, the League also researches issues important to our members and to the health of our communities. If you are interested in finding out more about what we do and how you can also make a difference, please visit us at lwvrosevillearea.org. Membership is open to all age 16 and older. We would like to thank you all for coming tonight, including our at-home audience for viewing. We'd also like to thank 9 North for their time and resources, making it possible for the community to hear from their candidates. I would like to personally thank my fellow League members who diligently planned this event and are working extremely hard tonight. Without them, this forum could not have happened. Finally, we'd especially like to thank our candidates for being part of the democratic process by running for office and for being willing to serve their community. Thank you all again for your time and attention, and remember to vote early or on November 5th. Good night.
Good night.